Welcome back from summer. I took a little bit of a break to relax and I hope you did too. For those of you who have forgotten or for those of you who are new, my name is Annette Evans and I am the voice behind On Her Own, where we explore what it means to survive and thrive as women, people who can't always count on having help to navigate the world. My background is in shooting and combatives, which means I've thought a lot about what it takes to solve violent problems with everything from walking and talking my way out of danger to using weapons and my bare hands to force my way to safety. Beyond just feeling safe, I want to be safe, and I want to help you be safe too. One of the ways I'm doing that is through this series, where I take a hard look at the products and techniques that are marketed to women to see if they're actually effective or if they just exist to take our money and make us feel like we've done something. Today's self-defense tool is the Kubaton, essentially a dowel, usually made out of metal, in the form of a pen, a keychain, even a hair stick. I'm going to talk about both the pointy kinds of Kubatons, like this, and the kinds that is more blunt, like this, that's more of just a stick. Either way, classically, they're about 5 or 6 inches long and about as thick around as a pinky. That's what she said. And they often have some kind of machine grooves or texture along the length of them to make them easier to hold on to. There's also a variation called a capo stick, which adds a soft loop that you can put around your middle 2 fingers to help you not drop the stick when you're walking around or even in the middle of a fight. Kubatons are most famously used as some sort of pressure point or joint lock aid. In that role, they're intended to multiply the kind of force that you can get with just your hands and fingers when you're trying to make the other person let go of you, or you want to move them directions that you want them to go. One of the things that a lot of women are afraid of is being grabbed around the neck, just like this. So the Kubaton, the technique that I've learned about using this is I'm basically going to bring it up and over the wrist, grab it on the other side, thumbs kind of in the palm, and push down. And by pushing down, I can then push them around until I can run away. Almost all of the control techniques that Kubatons help with work based on the amount of pain that the tool or technique inflicts on the other person, or by making the body's own mechanics work against itself. In those cases, any pain is connected to the body wanting to preserve itself against the threat of immediately, potentially crippling damage. Not just wanting to avoid saying, ow, 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 ow. So this first technique is if my attacker is grabbing me on the side opposite to where I'm carrying the Kubaton. So he grabs me in the arm. I'm going to kind of stick the Kubaton underneath with my thumb over, pry it up and over, and then as I'm pushing, I'm going to push his elbow. And that lets me move him around, push him around so I can run away. The other use for Kubatons, especially the pointy kind, is as a pure impact weapon. This works with the non-pointy kind as well, but a little bit differently. If that's the intent, you're going to hold it in a fist with one end coming out the bottom side away from your thumb. So, just like this, make sure the thumb comes around to the outside. When you hold it like this, you can throw a type of strike called a hammer fist, and that spike coming out of the bottom can tear through flesh, or if you're using the non-pointy kind, just concentrate the strike into a little tiny area. It's like wielding a dull dagger, but without some of the practical considerations that come with carrying a bladed weapon. Whether Kubatons are more legal to carry than any other kind of weapon is dependent on local law, though, and you should check yours if you think you want to carry one, regardless of what kind of technique you think you want to use with it. I actually like the hammer fist technique quite a bit because it's simple and it can do a fair amount of damage. While my stack of cardboard here isn't any kind of human flesh analog, it gives you an idea of how much force can be amplified to allow the Kubaton to punch through a barrier without a ton of effort or finesse. As long as the Kubaton is of any kind of reasonable quality, and the aluminum ones you can find anywhere are good enough, they're capable of doing a significant amount of damage, kind of like this. The downside, it's going to get pretty bloody and potentially deadly. Kubatons, especially pointy ones used in this way, may be considered a lethal force weapon with all of the legal implications that could go with that. It's not that they're likely to kill someone, because it can be really hard to hit someone in the right places and make them stop immediately. And it could take a while for someone to bleed out, even if you stab them a whole lot otherwise. But the possibility is there, and you shouldn't forget it if you choose to carry a Kubaton. The other downside of a Kubaton is that you still have to go hands-on with everything that entails when you go up against larger and stronger opponents, and you might need significant time and effort to create enough damage to make the person stop physiologically. Even though non-debilitating physical damage can be deterring in a way that simple pain might not be, you have to be willing and able to inflict a lot of that damage, not just as a physical ability matter, but also as a psychological ability matter. Physically, strikes, even assisted ones, do require a certain amount of strength and a certain amount of targeting. You need to be able to hit the person where you intend to hit them and with enough power. A Kubaton will multiply your attack, especially from the power perspective. But remember that a multiple of 0 is never going to be more than 0. Not to mention, stabbing someone with a pointy stick is a very intimate form of hurting them, and it's not something everybody wants to do or is able to follow through with in the moment. That's okay, but you need to think about that possibility before it becomes your only option. Kubatons are a harmless keychain charm that can be waved at an attacker to make them go away. If deployed in this way, they will require up-close and personal fighting that might get difficult to actually hit areas of the body that will hurt the attacker. And if you get them at all, it's going to get dirty and gross. Your attacker might die as a result of you defending yourself with one, and you might not be okay with that. That's okay. On the upside, Kubatons are in fact more often legal or permissible to carry, or at least more socially acceptable. They can even be improvised from metal pens, screwdrivers, or other common items you might have around you. Whether purpose-made or not, having one already in your hand is okay in an awful lot of situations like that dark walk across the parking lot. And regardless, knowing proper technique about how to efficiently and effectively use a stick in self-defense is no bad thing. It might be the only thing that you have. For this solution, I'd give Kubatons 3.5 on her own birds, because it's so accessible and so potentially effective, but it also comes with some significant downsides that you shouldn't downplay. Let me put it this way. I might not go out of my way to have a Kubaton with me at all times, but I sure do like this hair stick sometimes. However, relying on a Kubaton for joint locks or pressure points is a little bit more problematic. We've talked about pain compliance before, and how it might not be enough against a determined attacker. Someone who is amped up on adrenaline or drugs might not notice the kind of pain that makes ordinary people pause. And someone who really wants to hurt you might notice the pain and not care. It's true that a properly applied Kubaton might inflict more pain than some of the other tools out there, like, say, stun guns. But you will still have some of the same challenges in play, especially if you don't get that properly applied part right. Being able to inflict enough pain to stop someone who's attacking you isn't only under your control either. The bad guy gets a vote too, and they might cast it by doing something as simple as wearing heavy clothing. Joint locks are a real thing though, and they can, in fact, physiologically force people to move in certain ways or cause immediate and actual joint damage. However, often what they generally cause first is a certain amount of pain. Cue right back to our discussion about pain compliance before. And that might not be enough. When you get beyond that point and actually start causing physical damage, there's still another important caveat. Beyond just having to get within punching range, you need to be able to get close enough to actually apply the techniques, which can require a high level of skill and practice to perform effectively on a truly resisting opponent. Plus, the harm you cause may be more than you are willing and comfortable to inflict on somebody, even in self-defense. And that can create a moment of unwillingness that will make it even less likely for the joint lock to be effective. I'm not saying it's impossible to make these work, but simply hanging a Kubaton off your keychain or putting one in your bag or pocket won't make you a joint lock master. You need to train to learn the techniques, you need to practice them on truly resisting opponents who are trying to make it impossible for you to apply them. And you need to do that on a regular basis so that you can remember how to do the technique and be able to do it when it matters. So when we think about being grabbed on the same side that you're carrying the Kubaton, there is an answer for that as well, and it looks a little bit like this. I'm just going to take the Kubaton behind my thumb, and I'm going to bring my arm around and press it into the crease here, pressing that muscle, and then it makes his hand loosen up a little bit. The problem is it looks a little bit more like this in practice. For this use, I'm going to stick with 3.5 on her own birds for the Kubaton. It might help you, but you're going to have to put a lot of work into it if you think you're going to use it for joint loss or other forms of pain compliance. As something to help you hit someone really hard though, don't throw it out entirely. They really can work. Hey, one last thing. I already have my next episode in the works, but I'm wondering, what are you interested in? Help me, InRange viewers. Let's see what else you want me to take a look at.